Welcome, my friends, to another season of Friday Night Frights. I'm your host, Count Vampire. This is season 9. Can you believe it? I can't believe it either. Oh, such a toothache. I bit into a hardened criminal last night. Oh my goodness. Yes, season 9. You have been such wonderful followers and fans of the show. I have taken over this month from Joe Motion, giving him a break from looking at the G.I. Joe toys and stuff. He needed it. So we are going to be reviewing, not previewing books. We're going to be reading books. Books are good for you. And keeping up with tradition. We'll be reading a few stories today. From More Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by Alvin Schwartz. And drawings by Stephen Gummel. And I also have selections from other books too. Yes, we're going to expand the library. I need to beat this year. Yes, we are. So, sit back and enjoy the show. You will enjoy the show. So this story is called The Weird Blue Light. Yes. There's a need to beat the purple light here, need to beat the blue light here. Yeah, so you need to beat the weird lights coming all around the vampire's house. Okay. So late one night in October, good month, in 1864, that was a good year. A Confederate blockade runner slipped by some Union gunboats at the entrance of Galveston Bay in Texas. Okay, very familiar with the Texas. Yes, it's a big state. They do everything big in Texas. Even their mosquitoes are big. Made it safely to port with its cargo of food and other necessities. Lewis Billings, the master of the small vessel, was getting ready to weigh anchor when he was startled by a shriek from one of the crew. A strange old-fashioned schooner with a big black flag was rushing down at us, Billings said later. Sounds like pirates. She was afire, and sort of weird pale blue light was lighted at every nook and cranny of her. Ooh, very interesting. The crew was pulling at the ropes and doing other work, which they paid us no attention and didn't even glance our way. They all had ghastly bleeding wounds. Oh, sounds like my kind of crew. And their faces and eyes were those of dead men. Sounds like my crew indeed. The man who had shrieked had fallen to his knees. His teeth were chattering, and he gasped out a prayer. Overcoming my own terror that was chilling the way to the marrow of my bones, I rushed forward, shouting to the others as I ran. Suddenly the schooner vanished before my eyes. Whoa, scary schooner. Some say that it was the ghost of Jean Lafayette, a pirate ship. Pride that sank in the Galveston Island in 1821 or 22. She was seen again in 1892 in the same waters with the same crew. Oh, Jean Lafitte. Yes. He was a rum runner. He used to run a lot. If he drank too much rum, he couldn't run at all. I remember chasing him down one time when he drank too much rum and he was sneaking. And he would fall down, and that's how I was able to catch him. Okay. And this one was called Somebody Fell Aloft. Aloft, not fell from aloft. Like a hayloft? Okay. Somebody fell from aloft. I had signed on as an ordinary seaman on the Falls of Ettrick, a merchant ship bound from England. Like the England I do. You know, Carfax Abbey and all that good stuff. The first time I saw that ship, I knew her way right away. She was an old Gertrude Spurshoe. Old Gertrude Spurshoe, yes, old Gertie, we used to call her. I had sailed on her years before. Then she was painted brown and gold. Now she was painted black and had a new name, but it was the same ship for sure. She had a pretty good crew for that voyage, except for one hard-looking ticket named McLaren. He was a pretty good seaman, but there was something about him that I didn't quite trust. Ooh, I wonder what's going on with McLaren. He was kind of secretive, kept mostly to himself. You gotta watch out for them quiet guys, you know? It's always the quiet ones. One day, somebody told him I had worked on an old Gertie. For some reason, he got all a tremble over that. Then I catched him, giving me all of these ugly black looks. Oh, watch out for them ugly black looks. You don't want the stink eye from this guy. As far as I had been itching to knife me in the back. Oh, he's going to be a backstabber. I guess it had something to do with the old Gertrude. But I didn't know that. Oh, this is getting intense, guys. Well, this one day, he was trying to work our way through the dripping black fog, and you scarcely know if he had the lights on when it was dead calm. I know about being dead calm. And there wasn't a breath in the air, a breath of air. The ship just lay there, wallowing through and rolling, doing nowheres. I was standing my watch around the midships. McLaren was doing his trick at the wheel. The rest of the crew was scattered about one place or another. It was quiet as could be. Then at once, wacko! This thing hits the deck right in front of old McLaren. He lets out a screech, then that turns my blood cold, and he falls down in a faint. The second mate starts yelling, and somebody had fallen from aloft. And laying out there just forward of the wheel was someone or something. Uh-oh. You know, it sounds like old Nosferatu is loose again on the boat. Dressed in oilskins with blood oozing from underneath. The captain ran and fetched a big light from his cabin so he could see who it was. And they kind of straightened him out to get a good look at his face, and they went through his pocket looking for his watch and some change. And really, they were looking for his identity, but they found his watch and some change. You know, they had to collect something from the guy. And he was a big, ugly-looking devil. He was, man. He was stanky, too. But nobody knew who he was and what he was doing up there. At least nobody was saying. When McLaren came to from his faint, they tried to get something out of him. But all he did was jabber away and keep rolling those big, wild-looking eyes of his. Everybody was getting more and more excited. We all wanted to heave the body overboard as quick as we could because he was stinky. And there was something weird about it. It wasn't real. The captain wasn't sure about getting rid of it right away. We had to do something because he was starting to stink. Couldn't be a stowaway, he asked. But the ship was filled with lumber we were carrying. There was no space where we were living. We couldn't hide there for 3 weeks, which is how long we would have been out, even if it had been a stowaway. What was he doing aloft on such a dirty day? And there was no reason for anyone to be up there. There was nothing to see. Finally, the captain gave up and told us to heave him overboard. Then nobody would touch him. The mate ordered us to pick him up, but nobody made a move. Then he tried coaxing, but it didn't do any good. Suddenly, loony McLaren starts yelling, "I handled him once, and I can't handle him again." He picks up the body and staggers over the railing with it. He is just about to throw it overboard when he wraps his 2 big arms around him, and they go together. Then they lay down. One of them starts laughing. It was in a horrible way. The mates are yelling, and to launch a boat, and nobody would get into the boat. Not on that night, not on a night like that. No, it's too dark and dreary of a night for anybody to get into a longboat to look for these guys that fell overboard. We threw a couple of life preservers over after them, but nobody knew they wouldn't help. So what was it? Or who was it? The first chance I had to go home after that, I went over to see old Captain Spurshoe, who was the captain of the Gertrude, was around. Well, he says, one trip, these 2 ghoulish men shipped aboard the Gertrude. One was McLaren. The other was a really big fella. The big one was always picking on McLaren and thumping him around. And McLaren was always talking about how he would get back at him. Well, this vet and dirty night, the 2 of them was up there all alone, and the big one came flying down, killed himself, deader than a herring. See, then you could see the scary picture. That's a pretty scary picture right there. That scary man fighting a McLaren. Oh, scary, scary picture. Oh, my book falling apart now. Oh, vampire read this too much. McLaren says that the foot rope they were using parted, and he almost fell himself. Everybody who saw the rope knew she hadn't given away on her own. She had been cut through with a knife. After that, whatever had come into port, McLaren thought we were going to get the police after him, and he would get pretty scared, but he couldn't prove anything, so we didn't try. And in the end, I guess the big fella took care of things his own way, and it was the ghost that came back, and that he was, if there were things like ghosts. Well, a vampire could attest, there are things like ghosts. If there are things like vampires, there are things like ghosts, okay? All right, So there we have it. More scary stories to tell in the dark. I like this book series. It's a 3-book series. Very good books. Vampire loves these books. So thank you so much for tuning in, listening to Vampire. Good to be back on the YouTube channel thing again. Yes. Brought this along. These came from my crypt. Yeah. See. Makes a pretty good soup bowl. Yes. Brought him along for a ride. So, anyway, next week, we will get the books. The books are over here, but they're out of reach. They are stories by Mr. James. What? Yes, Mr. James. It's M.R. James? It says Mr. James on the book. M.R. James. Oh, those are initials. Oh, sorry. It's M.R. James, not Mr. James. So we'll be reading stories by the renowned author, M.R. James. Very good book. It was gifted to me by a friend and bookstore guy, RJ. He's a friend of the channel, so I told him, oh, Vampire be reading book by Mr. M.R. James. So, yes, we'll be reading his books. So, anyway, thank you so much for tuning in and making Friday Night Frights so successful. Yes, it's good show. Vampire happy to be part of it, and thank you for inviting me back. It's good to be back and out of the crypt and enjoying everything. And anyway, you guys, you take care. All right, you stay safe out there. You be good to everybody, or I'm gonna come back and you're gonna look like this. Okay, you be nice to your puppies and your kitties, because they know nothing but unconditional love. You be good to everybody. Be good to yourselves. Okay, you deserve it. All right, we see you next Friday for more scary stuff. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, push that button. Say, hey, no Vampire, be a good guy. And leave me a note down in the bottom section thing. Say hi, Vampire, stuff like that. And we'll get back to you. And I type the buttons thing like the YouTube and say hi back. And good stuff. All right, bye-bye.